Since the Democratic vote on my channel does not want me to talk about some hard topics, I decided to go on one thing that I believe to deserve some attention, which is about stop animal testing movement. The short answer to this movement for me is partially yes. We need to stop the cosmetic testing on animals as the whole apparatus built to check whether a new product irritates eye or bare skin at high concentrations. That's an easy case, but the rest of the tests are not. I work on animal care facility myself, and I do not support a total stop. Even though my mentality is a little fucked up beyond repair, I do care about animals. I watch newborn rodents, and some rodents fight each other and probably lose their tails. I also feel sad when some died, and the whole body will be frozen and then recycled to feed the nature. It was the work I found useful, but feeling and doing the right things are different. Part of my concern is practicality, and it starts with the IRB. People imagine animal research as underregulated. In my experience, it is the opposite. The forms for a simple questionnaire studies is probably as long as the paper itself, and the ones for animals will only be longer. The board will and has already declined a large share of proposed animal studies. Less funding in the whole system will just mean fewer studies get approved at all, and we are making fewer progress. For reasons that has nothing to do with ethics and everything to do with resources, maybe politics, maybe votes, whatever. But going through the whole IRB process makes you miss the quote unquote golden era where a Stanford prison experiment could just happen. There's part of me that misses the freedom of doing something. I prefer compensation over precaution. Reduction in animal experiment is also already standard practice. In an ape research, for instance, a sample size of 2 is often considered good enough. Researchers are already not reaching for large numbers for the purpose of animal welfare and cost. I also don't see a reliable full alternative. Rodent-derived cell lines are obviously more affordable than human samples. AI models like AlphaFold help, but they can rule out certain proteins before any animal is touched. But they only reduce workload. They cannot currently simulate and replace the need for a living system entirely. And the field already has a framework for this, and it's been operating for a while. The first one is replacement. It's like using non-animal method wherever it's possible, which involves full replacement, which involves cell cultures, organ-on-a-chip system, computer/AI models, human tissue samples. We also have partial replacement, which is about using organisms believed to have less capacity for suffering instead of mammals. This is like where AI and new approach methodologies are making the biggest difference right now. We also have reduction, which means using the fewest animal needed for statistically valid results. And for refinement, the current standard requires researchers to minimize pain and distress for animals still used, like better anesthesia and pain management, improved housing, handling, enrichment, and less invasive procedures. This reduction effort is not something new. It's been building since at least 2022, formalized in the FDA's roadmap to reducing animal testing in preclinical safety studies. Considering what is happening in the NIH and university in the States, to be honest, if this standard starts from RFK, then it will be concerning. I have trouble trusting an opportunist. If I am honest about where I think the actual problem is, it is in who gets to understand what happens here. Knowledge sits behind the paywall and literacy. The article, The Growing Inaccessibility of Science from 1992, is paywalled by nature. Meanwhile, AI has stepped into the space where that understanding should be, and is happy to hand back a confident, fluent sounding answer, whether or not it is actually reflects the state of science. People end up with the feeling of knowing everything and the understanding of almost nothing. That is what I believe where slogans like Stop Animal Experiments thrive. Not because people are wrong to care, but because caring is the only tool they have been given. Nobody handed them the paper, the protocol, the actual trade offs, especially the IRB form. If we want to better settle the debates, we need to fix that gap before we fix the controversy.